What's going on, YouTube? Today's cut is a mid taper. Let's get into this video. Here I'm prepping the upper portion of his parietal ridge only, just because of course I'll be cutting off the excess later since it is a mid taper. Here I'm adding some mousse, making sure that I'm able to lay the hairs down as much as possible. I feel like I added more mousse in some areas than others, but the cut's still going, you know what I'm saying, come together in the end. Here I'm just blow drying and making sure I brush everything down, just so I can come up with my 1A, cleaning up all of those in between areas of his the part I did comb earlier and what I didn't, just so I can go in with my 1A blade and get the rest of this process down. His left side did have some imperfections, and this time around I was just gonna have to make sure I tried to know how far I could take it with it, but still was able to go in with the 1A blade and get that transition together before going into the most vital part of this taper. Now making sure everything is even. I just want to keep everything the same length all around. Now with the feathering technique, making sure I use the corners of my blades, and if I am using the full blade prostitute, I'll just make sure I'm feathering off of the first layer of the taper. Here doing the same thing all around. Now just debulking where I'm going to be applying my edge up. And here I saw some spots and I just wanted to make sure I cleaned it up a little better. Typically I go in with the one blade once I'm finished with the 1A, just using a fade down method. But here, since it hadn't been cut, I wanted to make sure I was able to go with any adjustments that I needed instead of possibly wasting time trying to do the same thing later on in the cut. Now though, I'm just cleaning up that area that I prepped previously and just making sure everything is as balanced as possible before actually setting in taper areas. Still have to make some adjustments with this taper, but that doesn't really matter, honestly. Here's making sure everything is clean. Now going in with the adjustables. I have a Babyliss blade on my magic clips, just for, I'd say, the surgical look for a taper. Here I'm fading up with the blade, and I go in and do my 3/16 up into the 1/8 again with my combs. Here doing the same process. I typically cut in quadrants, and this would be considered the third quadrant. Doing the same process, but here I still just went all the way through with it, just so I can do everything at once. Now with the 1/16 comb, making sure I get everything, as far as my process with the taper, get everything balanced on both sides, because I mean, just because the texture isn't the same on either ends doesn't mean the system has to change immediately. System can go about any type of adjustments that need to be made once the system is complete. I feel that's a part of detailing, and here that's what I'm doing now, just detailing those areas that I felt were still having imperfections down here. This bottom guide, as you just saw, I was making sure that where the tunnel soil is separating with the parietal ridge, I was just making sure that I had that area balanced enough before doing anything else to it. Here, just making sure I clean up that bottom guide as much as possible. Don't want to go in too much the same way as I made it, because then I'll just raise it up way higher than it's supposed to be. But now I'm just doing the same thing all the way around, making sure those bottom guides are clean, and it doesn't make my taper look any kind of way. Here, my taper did have an area that was lower than another, so I had to go in and make some adjustments as far as the way I approached tapering it. So now I'm just debulking the area a little higher than I did previously, and going in and raising that taper up, still tapering up. Don't want to mess with the transition that I made down fading though, still keeping it within my means, and trying to make it balance on either end. And I feel like that's one of the hardest parts sometimes, especially when you have a cut that you're doing and you have a bigger canvas, I say, and just trying to make sure it's even all the way around is very hard. That was his edge up as far as his vellus hairs was concerned, and I didn't want to keep it there. I wanted to bring it to its most prominent point, and somewhere in this cut, its head just started tilting every now and then, and just kind of tugging back and forth while I was edging him up. And that was like the only time it typically happened. Usually I would edge them up before, but I kind of knew what I was getting myself into. So like still had to make the edge up the best edge up possible, and that's what I did here, especially with the left. It was kind of slanted a little bit, so then I just had to go in and make both ends add up. You know what I mean? Just as symmetrical as possible. So here, going in and cleaning it up as close as I can get it. I know I said my trimmers do hit close enough to where it's just about is equivalent to a shave, but this service I do offer shaves, which is why it was included in this service. Plus, it was his birthday cut, so I had to make sure he was as fresh as possible. And typically, whenever I'm doing the edge ups, I don't want to go in too much in the beginning, so then I just try to make everything as balanced as possible, and then detail the specific area. So I detail the taper whenever it's time to detail the taper. I detail the edge up whenever it's time to detail the edge up. And I feel like that's the best methods for me, based off of what I know I can do as far as a cut, and depending on, since this is a kid, what type of adjustments he make while I'm cutting his hair, just in case I do have to go into it a little bit. It won't be as harsh. And this is the cut at the end. I know due to the angle and the lighting and stuff like that, it was kind of hard to see, but this is the finished product. Edge up straight, cut on point. Birthday cut was the highlight of my day. If you enjoyed this cut, subscribe.